Welcome to my channel. On this channel, I'm going to be doing poker vlogging, but I'm using virtual reality, which is fake money, instead of using cash games. There's reasons, we can talk about the reasons, but this video is largely about uh, kind of sharing some of the mindset shifts between cash poker and VR poker that will help anyone who is either using VR poker as a way to learn poker and hopefully get into real cash games, or somebody who has a history of playing cash games who's interested in playing VR poker for whatever reason. So let's dive in. The first way to shift your mindset regarding virtual poker is to accept that the virtual currency is inflated. When you start the game, it gives you a certain amount of money, which is an unrealistic amount of money for all of us who are starting to play poker. There's no way that I would take the 15K that I'm given in one of these games and go and actually play poker with it. If so, when you're comparing the micro stakes and the real cash game online experience, especially, and then looking at the virtual reality or your tablet poker, you're going to find that the numbers kind of have to be adjusted. So I did some work for myself. I'm going to share it with you here. This is just my calculations. It's not from anywhere official. And again, it's just my calculations. So while there are stakes that go above these, I only worked out the first 6 for this video because really, frankly, where I am in my game right now is about here. So I just don't see a point in going higher because of bankroll things we'll get to shortly. So my rough translation, 1 cent, 2 cent is like the 2040 tables or the 2550 tables that are in virtual reality. I don't really see anything that's the same as the 5 cent kind of thing, so I just kind of skip that. 5 cent, 10 cent, you'll have a 100, 200 with a 15K buy-in. All of the cash things I'm looking at are from a sample where this is a 100 big blind buy-in. You're not going to find that in virtual reality. This, for example, is a 25 big blind buy-in. This one is an 85. This one finally gets to 100, but for various reasons, it's not 100. So I kind of worked these out so that I could translate for my own games. And as I was working this out, I worked out what 1 cent was according to this. And if you just look at this really simple, you can see that $1 equals $2,000. So if I go back here, you can see that 1 cent equals $20. So we just add a couple of zeros to it and we get $1 equals $2,000. So this is just my rough calculation. This has nothing to do with if you go to purchase chips in the game. I'm not even talking about that part. And remember, of course, that a virtual bankroll can't be cashed out. So even though I give it a dollar value, it doesn't really have a dollar value. So it just helps think about it in more realistic numbers. Because I know that when I first hit $1 million in the game, I was like, wow, this, I could play on the low tables forever and not lose this money, and poker is poker, so why should I build my bankroll? But now thinking about it in monetary terms and saying that's $500, well, that gives me a little bit more understanding. $1 million is crazy to me. $500 makes sense. The next thing I want to talk about is managing your virtual bankroll. The mental shift on virtual reality regarding anybody who wants to do any kind of cash game poker is that in virtual reality, people are trying to get up the stakes as quickly as they can and are not really thinking about protecting their bankroll. So you'll find that people are too high up the stakes for their bankroll, but that doesn't mean that you should be too high up the stakes for your bankroll. So if we take a look at this and think that, I went online and watched some videos, and say we take the $100 bankroll challenge that inspired me to create my vlog in the first place and to do all these calculations. What they suggest is that you start in the 1 cent, 2 cent, and work your way up to the 2 cent, 5 cent, starting with your $100, so that you have 50 full buy-ins. That's a crazy amount in virtual reality. People do not do that. So I've scaled it down to something that would be instead 20 full buy-ins, and this is what the equivalent would be like in the cash game. So you have to make sure that you have $20 before you go into 2 cent, 1 cent, 2 cent with the $1 or $2 buy-in, and all these other numbers there. And when we go here and look at these numbers, that translates this way. So it means that, for one thing, the numbers are quite a bit bigger, of course, because again, we're talking about that $1 to $2,000 translation, right? But also, there's big jumps getting between stakes. So while you only need 20 full buy-ins for this one, to do 20 full buy-ins here, that is 300K. So the jump between these is a little bit of challenging, and it is where people can get frustrated because they don't want to stay on the low stakes. They want to get up to the stuff with the quote unquote better players and the ones who, play more reasonably. But down here is also very profitable, and we'll talk about that shortly too. So table selection is the next thing to kind of shift your mentality about in VR poker. Each VR game, or each one of these tablet games, they have a way to like randomly assign you to a table. I suggest avoiding those. Those are generally not set up for you, especially if you're planning to have 20 full buy-ins before you get onto a table. It's more set up by the business, and they're going to get you potentially onto a table that doesn't allow you to buy in very many times, and you may lose your money quickly. So instead, it's better for you to choose your own tables, understand the stakes that you're choosing, understand how the interface works. That part takes a little bit, but once you get that going, then you can choose your own tables and you can start to look more closely at additional things about choosing good tables. So for virtual reality, I would suggest that you choose tables that are within your stakes, as discussed, but also ones where the players that are currently on the table all have a bankroll that is below the max buy-in of that table. So if it's a 15K table, look for people that have 4 digits or 5 digits but are still under that 15K, and majority of people on the table are under that. Look for a table where nobody is clearly a chip leader. That's also a great table to go on to. Once you get onto the table, take a look around and note the level of the players. You can either see the level of them because it's a video game, or you can see some other aspects of their character, their avatar, which will tell you that they've been playing longer than other players. And just note the ones that are there. I always look for having a table where there's a couple of good players sitting on the table with me people that fold out when they have bad starting hands, people that I fold out if they start to bet, but then have 3 or 4 of the rest of the chairs be with less experienced players and the ones that will be easier to target for taking their bankroll. Now, one thing that in virtual poker I think is a big mindset that especially cash game people have to think about. If you want to use this as a way to practice, a low cost way to practice things right from your home, something you can do for a half an hour, take it off, go back to your life, then you have to think about who is in there. You have to realize this is a video game. You have to realize that there are going to be teenagers, there are going to be kids, and those are actually the ones who probably play badly. Those are the ones that you can probably get the most money from if you can learn how to play those players. It is a frustrating thing at the beginning. It does trigger some emotions, but that's a whole nother benefit of learning poker in VR, I believe, is that you're at home. You can take this headset off when you're tilted and you can take a break. And then you can come back. You can quickly switch tables, go to another one, and not have the same problems. But of course, there are times when the table you're on is no longer any good, and you should consider leaving the table. The main times that I leave the table is when I find that this is a video game, so sometimes people will figure out ways to exploit things or give themselves unfair advantage beyond just aggressive betting. In that case, I will potentially record and report it, but I will leave the table. Another thing is when you get onto the table and it's full of these great people that you can, who are play worse than you, that you can build your bankroll from, but as you knock them out, they leave the table, they're replaced with new people, and at some point you look around and you find that everybody is high level and there's only maybe one or two people on the table that are easy to target or easier to win a pot against. And at that point, it's probably a good time to look for another table and see if you can go back to that first thing that I said. Look for the people that not everybody's bought in with a maximum. Not everybody, um, nobody's a clear chip leader, and go to a new table and start again. Now, the biggest challenge of virtual poker definitely is what I mentioned earlier. It's a video game. It's a headset, it's a video game. There are teenagers, there are kids, there are unchaperoned people, there are adults that misbehave, just like the kids that misbehave. So the biggest advice I can give you for anything here to survive is to learn how to mute people, to learn how to freeze their avatars if they're getting in your space or they're just moving around and they're being annoying. Learn how to send in a report through the in-game systems if you care to, or just learn how to mute and freeze them, because then you can just focus on taking their money. In virtual reality, people come and go very quickly. If you beat them out of their money and they leave the table, now somebody new joins in and hopefully it's an improvement. The biggest benefit, so this is the final shift, mind shift of cash game to virtual poker, or getting involved in virtual poker and realizing it's not the same as casino or home game or cash game poker, tournament poker. The biggest benefit of virtual poker is the immediate convenience. You can get into a game right away. You don't have to sit around and wait. You don't have to leave your home. You can find a table, you can get started, and you can practice your game, watch some videos, go and practice a few things, log out again, watch some more videos, practice a few things. You can record all of your play so that then you can examine your play if you're using some of those more advanced tools for that cash game people actually use. And also, it's just I find poker is an emotional game. This money may be fake here, as I say here, it's, yes, it's fake money in virtual reality, but the emotions are real, and tilt is real. And you'll find that there are lots of people that try to tilt you when you're online, and it's great to learn how to deal against that. It's also very helpful to learn how to read people in this environment where you can't see their actual physical face or their body movements even. You'll have to learn different ways of reading people. Now, I'm really interested in your feedback. I appreciate that virtual reality poker is not real poker, and there are many things about it, including the dealing algorithm that people are concerned about. But I would imagine that online poker, money poker, has some of the same challenges, including some of those same mouthy people. Virtual reality just makes it so that you feel like you're sitting around a table with people, and therefore it's not just text chat where they're being mouthy. It's, you can actually hear them. But again, going back to the previous thing, mute them, freeze them, take their money. Love to hear from you. Hope you watch some videos, and if you have a poker vlog, whether it's about virtual reality or real cash poker, I'd love to hear from you. One day I do plan to play cash poker, and then I'll have videos where I talk about the direct comparison. But in the meantime, love talking to you. Thanks for watching.